Welcome to the Hawkeye Sidekick podcast. And you're very welcome back to the Hawkeye Sidekick Rugby Union podcast with your host, Mark Kennedy, joined again this week by Liam O'Brien. Liam, how are things?
Great, Mark. Yeah, it was another smashing weekend of Six Nations action.
Absolutely. We'll run the rule over round 3 of the Guinness Six Nations tournament. I suppose, Liam, we'll start first with the Six Nations. We'll look at the Italian-Irish match in Rome. What were your impressions of this fixture?
Very enjoyable, actually, two teams that I suppose really came to play. Italy are certainly proven that they are a team on the up. And Ireland, in the end, had a very comfortable looking scoreline, but it certainly wasn't that way through the game. It was like really nip and tuck. But we actually scored some smashing tries, absolutely smashing tries. Great support lines, great finishes. So delighted. And also, all the guys stood up who were supposed to stood up.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought it was a very enjoyable opener to round 3. Fair play to Italy. They gave as good as they got on the day. I thought some of their attacking play was sensational. RBC, a huge plus for them at 10. Capuzzo as well at 15, really orchestrating well. And Luke Farney as well, really being prominent. But I suppose, Liam, it kind of kicked off straight away, didn't it? With Ireland attacking immediately. James Lowe nearly getting in the corner. And that kind of really set the tone for this game, didn't it? I mean, there was an awful lot of line breaks for both teams. And then Lowe's try obviously being disallowed. But then straight away, another significant line break. James Ryan crossing. And I mean, the tone was set really, wasn't it, Liam?
Yeah, I suppose the first thing we can say is in terms of just going through all the different minutes, Lowe really should have scored there, But yeah, I mean, it certainly set the tone. And then, like, just literally afterwards, Aki, I think, had a fine attacking game. There's absolutely no disputing that, what he brings. And the link play, the link play from Aki and into Lowe, and then back inside to Ryan, and that was the opening try. Like, very, very well worked, actually.
Great start. Obviously, Ross Byrne in for Johnny Sexton missed a difficult conversion. And you thought, okay, Ireland going to consolidate here, but fair play to Italy. I mean, the lead up to Stephen Varney's try on 7 minutes, there's some nice interchange passing, particularly in midfield, spreading Ireland defensively to breaking point. I thought it was just a very well worked score from Italy here, Liam.
As I said, they came on with Cannoni, who the powerful number 8, who was incredible all even. He had a massive carry pretty much up to the line, But Farney was still, he still was lively to it and just popped over. And suddenly they got the conversion and they were 5-7 up. So excellent.
Yeah, no, it was an excellent response from the hosts, and Ireland needing to respond again. Didn't have to wait long here, Liam, did we? 6 minutes, Hugo Keenan going in here. Some great work here from Buddy Hawkeye as well on the lead up to this try.
Yeah, but again, what I liked is actually Ross Byrne. Ross Byrne made that. He's pass into Hansen away, Aki, and then Keenan somehow stepped in and twirled around and found himself out of the clutches of the Italians to get our second try. And yeah, that was actually excellent, another excellent work try, really.
Italy a little bit on their heels now at this stage. Maybe the first up defensive tackles being exposed a little bit here, given those first 2 tries for Ireland. But it got better for Ireland 7 minutes later. Bundy Akai playing at 13, crossing here, and more great work here. Intricate passing, creating the overlaps. Just a marvellous try here from Ireland to secure their 3rd try of the afternoon.
Yeah, when you're really at it when you have your flankers pretty much offloading and your centres and wingers basically finishing, then you're in a good way. Interestingly, that was also the 3rd, well, almost the 4th try, you could say, down on the left-hand side. So Italy were in all sorts of trouble down that particular corner, actually.
Super touchdown from Bundy Akai here, holding off a few Italian tackles to get over here. So again, all being pretty prominent, to be perfectly fair. Garbisi had kind of put a penalty over just before Bundy Akai's try. So that was a good response from Ireland. 35th minute, bonus point secured here, Liam. Matt Hansen on the end of another free-flowing move.
So, to be fair, McCluskey, absolutely smashing pass. And yeah, Hansen is continuing his impressive scoring rate. That was the bonus point pretty much at that stage. And all looked well. All looked quite easy going into half-time.
Kind of did. Ireland completely on the up. Again, more attacking platform. Now, I have to credit Pierre Bruno just for the anticipation on the game read here. I mean, the pass here between Ross Byrne and Bundy Akai doesn't go to hand, obviously, but it's very much telegraphed. And I have to say credit to the player here, Pierre Bruno, for having the ingenuity to basically identify it and execute and intercept it. And what a tonic for Italy going in at half-time. Unopposed, straight under the posts, Garbisi with the conversion. And suddenly it's a one-score game again.
To be fair to Bruno, he had some run. Like, I've seen intercept tries, but he had a long run ahead of him. So it was an excellent finish. But yeah, I mean, there you were, half-time, absolutely nothing in it. And we knew Italy would come out in the second half, and it was kind of going to be squeaky bum time, really, wasn't it?
Given the fireworks that ensued in the first half, I thought it was a bit of a cagey opening from both teams. I mean, with penalties here, trading penalties, obviously, Ross Byrne and Garbisi. But Italy, again, you know, confidence was kind of seeping through their performance here as the minutes wore on here. They were creating some nice line breaks, Capuzzo being very pivotal here. And I suppose, as you say yourself, Liam, squeaky bum time. I suppose, can we talk about the Breck's decision to kick in behind? I thought that was a pivotal moment in the game. Very much kind of just keep the ball in hand here. I think Ireland would have been completely stretched and a try probably to be conceded. But I mean, that's a poor decision from Breck's to 13 for Italy with a try very much glaring.
Oh yeah, very, very much. I mean, like, you'd have to say that was the key turning point in the game. You know, I think at that stage Italy would have scored and probably would have had the momentum and the crowd to go ahead and to finish off the game at that stage. There's no doubt about it. The Aki try disallowed again in the corner as well. We had our chances. We're still creating. I think for me, also crucial in the game was probably Ryan Baird's penalty win. That was absolutely crucial. At a time where there was literally 4 points in it. Just to get that kind of 7 points ahead, if the worst came to the worst, you know, they'd be kind of level, you know, going to the final quarter. Ryan Baird, massive impact straight away. Yeah,
and I think that goes for everyone else on the bench that came on. This was a game very much in the balance, so you have to credit the players that came on for Ireland. They certainly did a quality job here to maintain standards, and some would argue probably elevate the performance. It was required. I mean, from, let's say, Conor Murray, Ryan Baird, Tom O'Toole having come on fairly early for Finlay Bealham, I didn't think put a foot wrong as well here, Liam, a tight head. So I think from a squad perspective, another very competitive test match and the squad seeing to good effect.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, it goes without saying that Tom O'Toole was excellent when he came on, Baird and certainly Murray. And I suppose, look, Murray's absolutely, I don't know how he kind of squeezed through the two Italian defenders and pops it to Hansen to finish the game. And it was a real moment of genius, I'd have to say, from Murray to really break the Italians at that stage.
Yeah, it just broke the Italians' hearts, really, didn't it? But I mean, he showed his experience, his composure again. I think that was required. Take nothing away from Greg Casey. I thought it was a very solid performance at 9 along with Ross Byrne at 10, but it needed that experience. It needed that closer to come in, settle things down. And again, the kicking game for Murray was on point. But I mean, the Mac Hansen try here, I mean, he identifies the gap. And then his identification of Mac Hansen coming on the shoulder, I thought it was just a superb score. And again, for all of Italy's efforts here, again, it's that bit of quality, that bit of nous, particularly in the 22, I thought was quite pivotal. And then Hansen goes over for his second try, Ireland's fifth, and Probably gave it a bit of a misleading scoreline here, Liam, really 34-20 at the final whistle. But I suppose if you're from the Italian camp here, you have to be immensely proud in terms of the performance. I suppose they hate this back-slapping commentary that I'm giving here. But to be fair, Canone here at 8, Garbisi, Capuzzo, Ireland defensively here were put to this pin of their collar here. And I mean, this is really showing an awful lot of evolution here from Kieran Crowley, his coaching staff, but particularly his players. Top pack-wise, as you've alluded to at the start of this podcast here, Liam, were very competitive throughout. I thought the breakout exchange is much more improved than it was against England. So I think overall, Kieran Crowley has an awful lot to work on and be positive about heading into that Welsh game in a week's time.
Yeah, we won't give them any false platitudes. We actually truly believe that they are a side seriously on the up, and in the next 2 years they'll be winning games in the Six Nations. There be no doubt about that against anyone. And onwards and upwards for the Italians against the beleaguered Welsh.
Exactly. There's some outstanding, of course, Pierre Bruno, 15 carries, 155 meters. Obviously Capuzzo with 9 carries, 30 meters, but it was just his electric pace, his creativity. Padovani, I think we have very much a nucleus here of a quality back three. Menicello as well, very much prominent here. And again, you're kind of looking down through everything. I think Canone has been an outrageously good find here at 8. You compare that now to the likes of Rusa here as well, Lamaro. There is an awful lot of good stuff going on here from an Italian perspective. But I suppose if we go to the Ireland perspective here, I think this was a good game. It was a good game for Andy Farrell to really see some of these players up close and personal, particularly players that mightn't be seen as regulars here. And to be fair to Ireland, they had moments here where they had to respond. And I think they certainly did that across the pitch here. Probably starting, in terms of our front five, but also our three quarters as well, which, it was an unfamiliar combination here, Stuart McCluskey and Bundy Akai. But creativity-wise, we learned an awful lot about our three quarters here and also our pack in the process.
Yeah, look, I mean, there's nothing about it. I mean, our half-backs had excellent games. Certainly Byrne has, once again, if he didn't have to already, he's confirmed that he's the second choice. Casey, excellent service, excellent delivery. He's certainly thereabouts for the bench. And yeah, as I said, offensively, I thought that Aki had an unbelievable game, quite frankly. And then you had Lowe and Hansen are just like try-scoring machines. And Keenan is the best fullback in the Six Nations, potentially the world. So, I mean, everything is flying at the moment. We have probably the most impressive backline play that we've ever had that I can actually recall. And then we have these narrowed forwards, and I would include James Ryan. I mean, in the Six Nations, Ryan has been a real dog, in his grunt work. Then, of course, we have that free-flowing, all passing, all dancing back row. So everything is working, and just go back to scrummaging too. I mean, look, if you can do well against Italy in scrummaging, you can do well against anyone, and certainly impressed with Tom O'Toole in his cameo.
Absolutely. I think Roland Kelleher as well, a notable highlight. He started the game ahead of Dan Sheehan. Didn't think put a foot wrong here, Liam, to be fair. I thought he was solid in terms of set piece, execution and line out. Provided a threat from ball carrying as well. Really took the game to Italy, particularly on our tap and goals. So I suppose from that perspective, that's a huge bonus for Andy Farrell. I'd also kind of, as I said, complimented the bench impact that came on here. The likes of Ryan Baird, Peter O'Mahony came on. I thought he was huge as well, wasn't he? In terms of his work rate, his tackle count. It was good to see likes of Jimmy O'Brien, Crowley coming in as well. Kilcoyne comes in. Typical Kilcoyne performance here, very abrasive ball carrying, and overall great work rate. So I think from an Irish perspective, an awful lot of questions were asked by this Italian side here. Maybe some may have thought unexpectedly, but I think you have to credit Italy here. I've heard an awful lot of media in terms of the three quarters and the synchronization between James Lowe, but I think you have to give enormous credit to Italy here, just in terms of how they devised their attacking schemes, their attacking lines. It was all very well executed, I thought, and I don't really care in terms of whatever three quarters were there. They were going to be posed problems from a very talented Italian side. I think we've seen it since last November here, Liam, the evolution of this Italian attacking play. And it certainly came to the party on last Saturday.
Yeah, and I suppose it boils an awful lot down to Benetton, Treviso, because they make up such a key proportion of the team. Italian rugby, these are all young players. They're all coming together at the same time, and that cycles for you, and sometimes almost a generational change. And Italian rugby is very much on the up.
Absolutely, and we can talk about the under-20s as well a little bit. I thought that was a fantastic game on Friday night. Ireland did win, but I think the scoreline maybe is a little bit misleading here in terms of the Italian under-20s. There seems to be an awful lot of talent coming through the youth ranks, the youth academy. So all that underage structure, the identification of players is really coming home to roost here, Liam. I think it's very exciting times here for Italian rugby. I generally do. So, but I think from an Ireland perspective, again, unfortunately, we have to talk about an injury, and I suppose Finlay Bealham, he's twisted knee. It's massively bad luck for Finlay Bealham, just given his consistent standout performances for both province of Connacht and also Ireland here in recent weeks. But I suppose his opportunity knocks here a little bit. I think news that Tyke Furlong is getting back into full training. But it's a huge blow for Finlay Bealham here, just given the time of year that we're in here, and hopefully this knee prognosis won't be a long-term injury for him.
Coming to the end of the Six Nations, where he was going to be certainly involved all the way, and then in terms of the URC and the lead in to European Challenge Cup as well. So yeah, I think he'll be back in about 2 or 3 months. So he'll be back for probably the in the autumn, just for those pre-World Cup games, and I certainly wish him the best. But look, Tom O'Toole, what a chance for him now, Massive. We really are going to get tested in terms of our depth there, and we have that. We have the depth. We have those three. We have John Ryan. There's plenty of squad depth there now.
I suppose you can throw in the likes of Salanoa there as well. He's been kind of in the fringes of the training camp here for Ireland. So, we did call at the start of this Six Nations team. I'm chuckling here, but the depth chart for the tight head prop, but I didn't think we were going to go down this deep, to be perfectly fair. But I think, take nothing away from Tom O'Toole, his 2 cameos so far in the Six Nations have been standout. They have been very solid, hasn't put a foot wrong. So, Tyke Furlong's only just coming back to full fitness. So, I think the argument here is Tom O'Toole starts against Scotland in Murrayfield. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, the Scottish front row, they're enormous. So it's going to be some test in general for Ireland. It could be the making of Tom O'Toole at this level.
He has said before this Italian game that he's had to bide his time. He's been in training camps. He's been with the squad for a few years and was anxious to really impress. And he's certainly doing that. And I think we should be a little bit more reassured in terms of our tight head prop situation, I suppose. Just given, the likes of John Ryan, particularly with the Chiefs and on New Zealand. Again, they had an incredible win against the Crusaders, and John Ryan had good quality minutes, so he'll come back into the reckoning when he's back with Munster Rugby. So Salanoa, there's quite a few other guys here that will be kind of chomping at the bit here to get an opportunity if need be. But again, we've Scotland and also England here to come here, Liam, from an Ireland perspective, and certainly our front row is certainly going to be tested massively in terms of our scrumming and our line-out. I suppose we can probably move on to the Principality Stadium. I suppose the backdrop had been about Welsh rugby in complete turmoil from an administration perspective. The threat of the strike didn't materialise. I suppose England got the job done. 2010 here. I suppose what's your overall impressions of this England win? And I suppose from a second question here, do you feel that Wales have enough quality to beat Italy based on what we've seen last weekend?
England at the end of the day, they did score 3 tries to 1 for Wales. So it was a bit more comfortable. In the end, you'd also have to say Owen Farrell, I think he missed something like 10 or 12 points as well in terms of kicks. They really, it could have been a right shellacking. There was nothing in it at half time really. It was like 3 points in it, and so obviously England in the second half, they play to their strengths. They play to the forwards, and that's exactly what they did.
it was kind of a mixed bag from an England perspective. They certainly had good stand-up moments here. I mean, they started the game pretty much on the front foot. Anthony Watson, after 19 minutes, being recalled, got a very good try. We also had the penalty from Owen Farrell to open the game up here. So there was 10 points on the board within the first quarter. So you thought, yeah, I mean, England have a good platform here. They're taking the oxygen a little bit out of the Welsh crowd. But I suppose you'll probably point here a little bit in terms of that Lewis Rees-Zammit try on 41 minutes. I mean, it was a complete lapse in defensive shape here from England straight after the kickoff. And I suppose that will be a worry, particularly for Kevin Sinfield, the defensive coach, how easy Rees-Zammit could actually get a try from his halfway line.
Yeah, it was. I suppose, look, it was a kind of a intercept try there and brought Wales back into the game when they weren't really at it. So for Sinfield overall, I thought England were quite comfortable in terms of the Welsh attack, to be fair, you know what I mean? You might get one point of that in the game, but I thought England actually were quite strong defensively, and Sinfield should be happy with just, I suppose, the clear progression that's happening.
Absolutely, because I think from a Welsh perspective here, they get their noses in front, but it didn't take long, did it, for England to reassert dominance here. I thought the pack, again, it's all about the England pack for me. It's a quality unit already, and it just needs a few kind of tweaks in terms of the half-back and also backline here. Again, Kyle Sinclair was very prominent throughout. On 45 minutes, crashes over. Wales are immediately on the back foot. And as you say, from an attacking Welsh perspective, nothing really materialised. I mean, from a line breaks perspective, only 4 clean breaks in 80 minutes. That's not going to win you a test match here, Liam, is it?
No, it's not. And I mean, look, Mason Grady was picked, in midfield, I suppose, instead of George North, and you had Rees-Zammit back and you had Halfpenny, but it's not clicking really there, I think a lot of it is that the platform, the forwards, isn't there. And then look, they had kind of a new half-back partnership as well, And yeah, it's just they're not creating any opportunities, which is probably the most worrying thing of all, really.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the scrummaging here, Liam. I thought England completely dominated. We had fears about this front five for Wales. I think it materialised. 6 out of 11 scrums won by Wales. 54% from a test match level perspective. You're not going to win many games here as well. I think you're getting a team here in terms of, I think Wales to a man delivered a very brave performance, but I just felt here the lead up to the game, I think there's clear cohesion issues in terms of what Warren Gatland and the coaching staff need to impart to the players on pitch, because again, there was too many kicks, hopeful aerial kicks, looking for a coughed up ball from England's back three. It never materialised. I think, to be fair to Wales, it was kind of in the melting pot for quite a while, up until Ollie Lawrence's try in 75 minutes. And I thought Ollie Lawrence, if Steve Borwick can take anything away from Six Nations already, I think it's the emergence probably of Ollie Lawrence here. Again, he had a very prominent role in terms of his carries, 12 carries for 42 metres, was very prominent. And I think, to be fair, Liam, a guy that England could probably build an attacking platform from, particularly in the three quarters.
Yeah, certainly. Look, I hadn't heard much of him before the Six Nations, but he certainly is. I suppose now at this stage they're leading back and their main attacking threat, scoring his try, but he also was very effective winning penalties as well. In terms of Six Nations, he's been one of their standout backs, I'd have to say.
Yeah, I think he's just, physically abrasive, ball in hand. I think, his great pace, great power. Tackling wise, he hasn't been found wanting either, to be perfectly fair. I mean, 9 tackles again for Lawrence. So, I mean, a guy who's kind of really consolidating his place in the starting lineup. Todd Henry Slade, 13. I think that'll be just a nice little watch between those two guys. I suppose the likes of Malins, Freddie Stewart as well, I thought was quite prominent with ball in hand as well when he got it. 71 metres from 16 carries. But I think Malins as well kind of came into it a little bit in the last 10 minutes when Wales tired and England were prepared to actually throw the ball around a little bit. So I think there is some grounds for optimism here, but I suppose it's all lining up for the number 10 jersey debate. I suppose news today that Marcus Smith has been dropped from the training camp from England. Probably expected return of George Ford. I think it's really showing me, Liam, that Steve Borwick still is very undecided in terms of who his long-term number 10 is going to be here.
Yeah, he certainly is. Like that is basically starting 10, first choice 10, 3 games, ago at the start of Six Nations, is now not even making the squad. Now, I think we had actually discussed about the great George Ford come back, that he could actually end up eventually, being the 10, with maybe Farrell really competing more so for centre and the likes of Slade. And I still think that is an option as well for England. They've now found a good centre partnership, but they still need to get that flow going in terms of number 10. And even I could see him making a big bench impact in the remaining 2 games.
Yeah, I think that's going to be an intriguing watch just to see where Steve Borwick goes on the 10 jersey front. I suppose Farrell, you could probably argue for a little bit more structured, kind of provided a bit more game management than maybe Marcus Smith, who's very dynamic in his attacking play. I suppose Ford will give you that as well. So I think it'll be intriguing just to see how that goes. I mean, obviously kicking off tee, Owen Farrell had a complete off day. There's no way of skirting around it. It was a poor afternoon for him. And as you said, Liam, this scoreline should have been far greater than the 10-point win. So it'll remain to be seen what happens here. I suppose from Marcus Smith's perspective, he can go back to his club Harlequins. He can go focusing on his club form, his performances. He hasn't been getting any game minutes in the last few weeks. So I think it's good for him to get game minutes. I think very much like a Joey Carberry case study in Ireland. Come back, really kind of put it up to Borwick and Sinfield that this is a guy in top form and really contend come end of the season here. So I think it'll be an intriguing watch, but I still think this England pack is going to take an awful lot of stopping, particularly when they come to the Viva on the final round of games here, Liam.
Yeah, look, it's all building, and they're going to time it well to look. It's going to be an absolutely cracking game, and again, it's in World Cup year. We have 2 games now where we're in almost like World Cup conditions. We're going to be in Murrayfield against a team really that's going to be driving for the win, and then we're going to be playing England at home. I mean, just perfect preparation for the World Cup. It's just gets better and better, really.
I think it does. It again, when you compare to France, Italy, Scotland, I think, to be honest, they're very attacking orientated sides, pretty much playing on the front foot. I think from this England perspective, it's going to be the sheer physicality of England here, particularly on their ball carrying, which will be, and also their set piece is going to be the main test here from an Ireland perspective. And I think it's going to be an intriguing watch just to see how Ireland measure up in terms of the physicality, particularly in a World Cup. They're going to be facing South Africa here, Liam. So I think this will be a true acid test in terms of our squad being depleted as well here. I know we're probably getting a few senior guys back, likes of Tyke Furlong, Robbie Henshaw. But the fact of the matter is, England are going to come to Ireland here. Again, they'll have their fixture against France in round 4. I think that'll be another barometer gauge just to see how this England team has evolved. The bye week again this week, how they will evolve their game plan against the old enemy here. So I think from that perspective, England are coming to probably the Viva, probably with more confidence coming in. I suppose from a Welsh perspective here, where do we start here, Liam? I mean, I think we've talked here in terms of the front 5. Again, the 9-10 partnership, is Gatland going to even retain that? I suppose Bigger does come back in. I mean, there's a key game here against Italy and Rome in a week's time. Another loss here, and I mean, confidence will be through the floor, I would think, at this stage for Wales.
Yeah, and straight away, I'll have to say, I'm tipping Italy, very much so, on the evidence of the 3 games that they've played so far. I mean, Wales, there's no justification on Wales even try getting the victory. I think that the problem is now for them, I suppose the worry is, okay, their halfbacks were terrible at the weekend, but their halfbacks were also quite poor previously. So I mean, like, what are you doing? Dropping players who are not in form for other players not in form. It's like, it's just hard to figure out, really. I would say Toby Faletau, I give him honourable mention. I thought he was excellent. That's about it, though. That's about all I can say. So they don't have a huge amount of players, that they can interchange or spring. But again, it's more a case at this stage that he'll have to find Gatland an effective game plan for the limited players that he has.
Well, I suppose to do that, he needs a good quality front five to provide a solid platform. He just doesn't have it at the moment. We're 3 games in here, Liam. Body of evidence is that this is a front five from Wales that can be got at, particularly at scrum time, and that is affecting other manner of play. I kind of felt so sorry in terms of Tomas Williams and Owen Williams here. I mean, trust into it. Fact of the matter is, if you're not getting quality front foot ball here, it's going to be very hard from a 9 and 10 to really affect the game. I think so it proved. And I think even the squad impact here off the bench, I thought it was, you could say maybe Bigger did steady things down a little bit. Hardy as well came in. But again, there was particularly front row, Badley Roberts, Rhys Carr, Dylan Lewis again. There was a few penalties here in that front row kind of replacement chart. Reffel tried hard, but again, there was no real impact. Nick Tompkins was probably the standout off the bench, but you're needing another 5 or 6 guys off the bench to really make an impact here, Liam. And I'm just trying to wonder here and identify other players that are not in this 23-man squad who could actually provide it. Maybe Tane Basham, maybe potentially Moriarty or something like that. But again, I'm struggling for names here.
Yeah, that's about all the 2 guys that would come to mind. So yeah, it's going to get rock bottom, I think, in the Six Nations. I think they're going to finish the bottom of the table, going to the World Cup. They're now 10th in the world. They've lost 12 of the last 15 games. Really, probably looking at under 20 level, not much coming through compared to any of the other 4 nations, really. So it's and then the rumours this week that players have been asked to take pay cuts, of almost 150 to 200,000 pay cuts, Some guys being offered, for 40 grand, which is kind of okay. I suppose it's the working wage, but it's for a rugby player, it's not huge. So it's we'll see how it develops now in the next 2 weeks, but that's going to be hanging over the players as well, I guess.
Well, I suppose the 60 cap rule has been reduced, hasn't it, down? But again, when players' terms are being slashed to that extent, I can see an awful lot of clubs like Vultures here looking at the Welsh regions and really plucking an awful lot of the top talent from Wales, in England, France, I would say even URC, I would say as well here, even from South Africa, even Super Rugby perspective, because I don't see too many of the established Welsh players really staying around if that's the level of terms and conditions that are being offered right now. I think that was the Cardiff Rugby case study, wasn't it? Certain guys there well established, and I don't think even the executive really went to those players. I think it would be an insult to the players to basically offer that sort of terms and conditions given what they're currently on at the moment. So I think it's going to get a whole lot worse here for Welsh Rugby before it gets better. And as you said about the under-20s of Wales, again, they're 0 for 3. Again, it's been very barren in terms of any success at that level. So I think you combine that with the regions, URC is a barometer in terms of how professional rugby is going in Wales. It's not going according to plan at the moment. You could maybe say Ospreys from a European Cup perspective, but there's an awful lot of teams languishing in the bottom half of the URC as well. So that kind of ascent of performance in the Welsh team now is no longer there. The squad depth does not seem to be there at the moment. And I think from Rowan Gatland, as you say, it's going to be tinkering here until he can get maybe a 23-man squad that he truly trusts. So I think tough times ahead for Wales, but I suppose England kind of second win in a row. They're a work in progress. But again, I think a team that have to be enormously respected here going down the stretch here. I think they still have an outside chance of a Six Nations Championship glory. Liam, we might then go to Sunday, France versus Scotland in Paris. What an incredible opening 10 minutes of rugby here.
Yeah, our opening 20 minutes, wasn't it? Yeah, I mean, it looked as if it was going to be all over between the tries and everything else. But look, I mean, Intimac pretty much from the off went over. Ramos, again, ridiculous conversion altogether, But then I suppose the crucial thing was the red card for Gilchrist. Now, was it, the people mitigating circumstances? No. It was basically another one of these, like, pretty much shoulder into head, and for me, a definite red card, and at that stage you'd be kind of thinking this is going to be a long afternoon for Scotland.
The restart at the start of the game, I did notice that Gilchrist basically tackled in that kind of directional angle and was kind of medium to high. So when this incident happened on 7 minutes, it did look pretty innocuous. But look, I think with TMOs now, again, the reaction of the crowd as well, it had to go TMO. I mean, again, I'm not sure in terms of red cards. There's been so many instances of this in the last few weeks here, Liam. I really couldn't comment, but the officials, they looked at it, sending off here. And I thought Gilchrist, particularly in the front five, such a massive cog for both Edinburgh and also for Scotland, that this was a huge loss. I know Johnny Gray basically comes on, who's a very able deputy, but I mean, for a complete workhorse engine, Grant Gilchrist was probably the one player that they didn't want to get sent off in that front five, and so it proved. So, I mean, it was a pretty arduous task here from Scotland. I mean, they were rattled already from the Roman Ntamack try. And then after 8 minutes, the second try kind of goes over in a very free-flowing move from France, exploiting that 40-man Scotland defence here.
Yeah, but I mean, Dupont with an amazing long loop pass that really made that for Dumortier. Yeah, it was looking ominous at that stage. But then I suppose, we also had a sending off for France, which was even more ridiculous, I have to say.
Complete headbanger moment. It's a red card all day long. I don't know what the prop is actually thinking about here, but it's as easy a red card you'll officiate all year.
Yeah, it was head to head, but apparently Galtier has now said that he is off. He's finished with him in terms of international rugby. He won't be picked for France as long as Galtier is now the coach. So that's the end for him.
Howeas,
yeah,
he has had a disciplinary issue, a history here with France. Remember, he got another red card, didn't he? And a few sin bins as well in his career with France. So I suppose Galtier's patience is worn off. He needs to be looking now more into the depth chart, and it gives Scotland a chance. That's it gives them an opportunity to kind of reset here. I thought the start of the show here, I know there was Dupont, there was Ntamack, but I think Thomas Ramos, just showed how world class a fullback he actually is. I suppose he stats 11 carries, 152 meters, 2 clean line breaks, but I suppose that 19-minute intercept, it kind of showed me everything about his strengths, his game reading, his execution of the intercept pass, and his pace then to basically get over. It was just an incredible score, and 3 tries on the board for France at that stage. It looked very ominous for Scotland, didn't it? But I mean, Ramos just showing that he's one of the best fullbacks in the world right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, look, when you're 19-0 up, it's looking comfortable, and then it's just a question of when is it that the bonus try going to be scored? But actually, funny enough, after that, that's when Russell started pulling the strings. For pretty much the remainder of the game, he was like on fire. He got Jones away to go get a try back, and actually in our excellent conversion. So it was certainly 19-7.
I felt when it got 19-0, I think Scotland relaxed a bit. I thought again, like the Welsh game, they started very tentatively. And we'd warned this last week on the podcast that if Scotland were going to start a bit tepid, a bit on the back foot, that they would be punished. I think 19-0 after 20 minutes kind of proves my point. But I think Scotland just basically relaxed. And as you say, Russell pulling the strings. I thought Hugh Jones was outstanding as well at 3/4. And I think they have a very formidable 3/4 here, Scotland. And I mean, Hugh Jones will get the plaudits with the 2 tries. But I think his partnership here, again, was very good. I mean, with Finn Russell, there's line breaks being created here. And perfectly fair for Hugh Jones. I think he went 138 meters during the game. So, again, it was a very good performance of Hugh Jones. But, again, it just shows the potency of Scotland here, particularly in open play.
Yeah, but I mean, like Jones and Tuipulotu, like just they're huge. They're actually huge, colossal centres. And Scotland now, they have an excellent backline. Jones, he's 14. He's got 14 tries, so he's got a good try scoring record for a centre as well. But I suppose so. Ramos got a penalty there to bring it back to 22-7 then at half time.
I suppose scoreline at half time here, Liam. Again, you never really got a sense that Scotland were out of this, and given their second quarter emergence, and I suppose Hugh Jones again, after good work again by Finn Russell on 48 minutes, really kind of bringing this game back into the melting pot.
Yeah, absolutely. Suddenly it was game on, and you felt that the next quarter would be crucial. And so then basically we're looking at Ramos. He did add a sort of a second penalty just to calm the French back again, just to kind of inch them ahead, until Russell again had his bit of magic there in the 68th minute, going over a lovely try actually.
Yeah, super try, wasn't it? I mean, he's playing at the peak of his powers at the moment, isn't he, Liam? I mean, what a threat with ball in hand, and really just kind of put this game right in the melting pot, doesn't it? I mean, some of the French locals getting very nervy at this stage with about 12 minutes to go, and I think the game could have gone any way here. I just feel a little bit like the other, particularly the England or the Ireland-Italy game. Maybe scoreline's a bit flattering here for France, but again, you have to give them credit. Particularly their bench impact off the bench, particularly on the pack, really did secure a good platform for Gael Fickou to go over on the 88th minute. So for Scotland, so close yet so far in terms of the 3 tries, but again, not even getting a loser bonus point. I think it'd be a bit of a disappointment for Gregor Townsend and the side, given how well they showed from the second quarter on here.
Yeah, and in that last 10 minutes, I mean, there was a number of times where like France would be camped on the line and Scotland would get turnovers, get penalties, but they give the ball right back. I think that was probably a thing for Scotland which was disappointing. They never got themselves upfield in good field position in that last 10 minutes when there was literally nothing in it to actually really go for the win. They just kind of basically let France control the ball in that period. France, with their huge impact, they were always going to have a good chance of getting that try. And as you say, Gael Fickou at the very end got it to put a complete gloss, it has to be said, on the scoreline. There was no way that there was anything like 11 points or more in it.
I think it was, to be fair to Scotland, it was a gallant effort. I think they come out of the game with enormous credit. Just how they responded after 19 minutes here. I think other teams would have folded quite badly against France in Paris, French crowd in the mood. But I mean, the fact that they had the French locals so nervy going into that final quarter, real testament, I think, to Scotland and how they've evolved, their resiliency. And they will be a live threat, certainly, for Ireland and Murrayfield in a week's time here, Liam.
Yeah, they certainly will. But look, there's nothing really, I know some of the scoreline lies, but there's nothing between, certainly, I would say, even including Italy in this, between, say, 4 of the teams anyway, or 5 of the teams at this stage, which bodes very well for the World Cup for all those sides as well, I mean, we have Scotland in our World Cup group. At the time, it looked like, quite frankly, a very winnable and easy fixture. Nothing like that now, you have 3 real sides in that group now to qualify out of that stage. Scotland, will want to lay down a marker basically for the World Cup and put a sort of a real doubts in Irish minds that they can really, I suppose, get out of the group basically. Whereas with us, it would be absolutely massive if we win and got a significant victory against Scotland and took a bit of wind out of their sails. Suddenly they would have lost 2 games in a row going into the final game and different complexions. So there's a lot to play for really.
Chance for Scotland to win a triple crown here, at the very least. They can beat Ireland on Sunday week. So there is plenty of motivation for Scotland. They will propose an awful lot of threats, particularly ball in hand. We've talked about Finn Russell, talked about Hugh Jones. We haven't talked about Stuart Hogg here. Klein, Duhan van der Merwe as well. So, I mean, they have potency. Looking down through their 23-man squad here, there's no real weak link here. Whereas before, maybe traditionally, you could maybe have picked holes a little bit in terms of front 5. Certainly none of that now. So I think from an Ireland perspective, they're going to have to bring their A game here, particularly to Murrayfield. I think a few of those defensive mishaps that happen against Italy can't be let happen here because with Finn Russell at the controls here, it could be a long afternoon for Ireland.
Yeah, and they've got some serious bench impact now, When you look likes of Johnny Gray and Fraser Brown, Sam Skinner, the ex-Wallaby Jack Dempsey, Ali Price, suddenly they have a really powerful 23-man squad there anyway. They're going to aim for the win, and as you said, they have the Triple Crown at the very least to actually win back. And it'll be a heaving Edinburgh, and it's going to be a tremendous test for Ireland again.
Yeah, it's going to be another excellent test for Ireland, particularly going for 3 here. Scotland, I think, instead of being deflated here, I think come out of the French game with a bit more confidence. I think they've strung together an awful lot of phases played, the best of the tournament so far from Scottish perspective. It might have been reflected on the scoreboard here, an 11-point loss, but I think just the backdrop to this and how the game emerged, I think they come into this Ireland game probably full of confidence here. Didn't feel that they can mix it against the big boys after seeing what France and Ireland produced a few weeks ago. They certainly mixed against France for long periods here. So, I mean, Ireland beware, I suppose, from a French perspective. Again, probably a workmanlike performance here. They had to soak up an awful lot of pressure, particularly in second and third quarter here. But I suppose the plus here for Fabien Galthié is that final quarter, as you said here, Liam, just in terms of how the game managed. They were playing in the right areas of the park here. And to get the bonus point and to deny Scotland the loser bonus point, I think was quite key here and sets France up very well for an intriguing clash with England and Twickenham.
Yeah, the crunch happening next. So again, I mean, some people have said this year now that France, it hasn't quite hit the heights of last season, the Grand Slam season. That would be sort of a concern maybe for French supporters heading into the World Cup. We have England again, improving with every game. So it's going to be a very hard game to call, a very intriguing game. I think it's going to be in our serious physical contest. And again, look, every Six Nations weekend has just thrown up some tremendous contests.
Oh, absolutely agree, Liam. And I think this will be one because, I mean, France, how did they approach this? I think the pack battle with England will be absolutely fascinating. We'll have a preview on this next week, but it's just a pack battle here. Like, who's going to get the front foot ball here? Could be a distinct styles here. England being very structured versus France trying to play very much attacking on front football here, really looking to expose England defensively here with multiple line runners. So, but I suppose a pleasing thing for France here as well was probably conditioning of the players. Maybe there was a bit of a critique after the Ireland game that Ireland wore France down, but certainly you can look at some of the statistics here on the tackles made, particularly like Fiku, 15 tackles, Bafana, 10 tackles. Yeah, Ntamak and Dupont combined for 25 tackles combined here, Liam. From a half-back test match partnership, I think it's incredible. Marchand, 16 tackles. Flamand, 15. Willemse, 10. Olivion, 16. And I think, guy that's very underrated with France, Cruz, came in for Geelong, 12 tackles and completely solidified, I thought, the back row when he came in. So I think from a French perspective here, I think it's a confidence-boosting performance. They got a good test off Scotland and they move on, and they do harbour Six Nation ambitions going into the last 2 games, which is what Fabien Galthié and his management staff would have wanted coming out of the game. Yeah,
absolutely. And in some respects, they gave as good as they got against Ireland, just came out narrowly at the edge of that scoreline. And maybe in some respects got the monkey off their backs by not having this huge winning run as well. So, but as you said, look, there's huge amount of positives for France when you come out of a test match like that and on the wrong side, or the right side, should I say. They have so much talent. I mean, you go full back, you have Ramos, you have Jaminet, and then you have such quality in terms of the back three as well, in terms of the wingers. It's they're going to have a very strong squad for the World Cup. I suppose the thing is they could come down to the final weekend and actually win the championship, because we have England. As far as I know, France are probably going to be the Welsh.
Be the Welsh. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, like realistically, it's big time on for them to win a championship as well.
Exactly. I think that's a fair assessment. I think it's it's kind of setting things up fairly well, but I think round 4 will be very intriguing as well. I think you have a number of games there which have an awful lot of subplots, so we'll definitely review that next week, Liam. Thank you for listening to this podcast episode. If you liked what you heard in this podcast, why not subscribe to the Hawkeye Sidekick podcast on either Amazon, Spotify, YouTube or Twitter platforms. You can also follow me at Hawkeye Sidekick on Facebook and Twitter for the latest sporting opinions, articles and reports.